You may be seated. Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Margaret Cook, Director of the Bullock Museum, and we're honored you chose to spend this time with us. Isn't it a wondrous and profound thing that the ideals written in an historic document with quill and parchment could continue to hold relevance and power for our lives today? When the Declaration of Independence was read 250 years ago this day to a crowd gathered in the State House yard in Philadelphia by Colonel John Nixon, much of the groundwork to convince the public the revolution was the only path forward had already been set. But even so, not all were united. The possibility of going into battle would be as bloody and messy as it would be heroic. It would require great commitment, considerable leadership skills, and faith in the cause. The first shots of the revolution had been fired more than a year prior, in April 1775, and they remind us that the Declaration was not a hasty decision. Diplomacy, the creation of alliances, training of troops, securing of financing, and endless conversations in the colonies, territories, and abroad were involved. Days spent on horseback, weeks on ships, meetings in parliaments, palaces, in private homes, back alleys, and yes, pubs. Amazingly, Spain, New Spain, France, and indigenous tribes like the Oneida and the Delaware would ally themselves with the American patriots in the years to come. All of the estimated 2.4 million people living in the 13 American colonies at the time would feel the impact, and regardless of age, economic standing, gender, skin color, origin, allegiance, enslaved, indentured, or free, thousands joined the fight in the hopes of forging their own destinies and that of their new country. I ask you to reflect on the incredible risks the delegates and their supporters were taking by signing their names to a resolution that would lead to the country we stand in today. During this afternoon's reading, listen to how Thomas Jefferson and the members of the Continental Congress wove together the argument for independence, listing those things they believed were their unalienable rights in a message not just to their fellow patriots, not just to Loyalists or Great Britain, but to the world. They first frame the situation and their beliefs. Then a litany of grievances toward the monarchy follows, some of which may make us uncomfortable without deeper context, but nevertheless leading up to the big moment, the therefore. This radical step not seen in European history before, the king's subjects dissolving their allegiance to the crown and ending with an extraordinary act, 56 men mutually pledging to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. This transformational moment in our history reminds us that the preservation of freedom is not stagnant. It takes not just one person, not just one moment in time, or even just one document, but many to continually strive towards a more perfect union that would later be written into the preamble to the U.S. Constitution. The voices you are about to hear are being echoed around the globe simultaneously by readers across every time zone as part of the Sharing the Spirit of America initiative. With deepest gratitude for the generations who have gone before us, please welcome our honored guests, the Andrew Carruthers Chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution, the Patrick Henry Chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution, and the Granaderos y Damas de Gálvez, the San Antonio Founding Chapter, as we present the American Declaration of Independence as it was read 250 years ago today.
In Congress, July 4th, 1776. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty, to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security.
Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in a direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over the states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to the laws, the most wholesome and necessary for public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodations of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies of places unusual and uncomfortable and distant from the depository of their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with mainly firmness his invasions on the rights of people. He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for the exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all dangers of invasion from within and convulsions within.
He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies.
For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people.
Nor have we been wanting in intentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intention, do in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are dissolved from all allegiances to the British Crown, and that all political connections between them and the state of Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually agree to each other, our lives, our fortunes, and our honor.
Would our voices of the Declaration please stand? How about another round of applause? Now, it is reported after the reading, bells rang out throughout the city of Philadelphia, and we will have something similar happen here across the street on the UT campus. The Carolineers from the UT Carillon will be performing a special concert that'll start about 6 o'clock called The American Revolutionary Story. And they have picked a selection from our time as being subjects of Great Britain all the way up to some favorites from the modern day. So if you are up for it, I hope that you will mosey on over to UT and settle in for a bit. Our team has scouted out locations where there's shade, where there's areas to sit, we have water, and we have sugar cookies from Tiff's Treat to help you get across the street too. Also, we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to look at the wonderful exhibit that the Texas State Library and Archives has been traveling around the state. There are over 700 copies in circulation of this traveling exhibition in libraries and schools and community centers all across Texas right now, and they did an outstanding job with it. Please also feel free to pick up a pamphlet or one of our Texas American 250 keychains, as well as a souvenir for your time here with us. And we are so grateful that you were able to come and spend this afternoon with us. Our store is open. We have some merchandise commemorating the 250th if you're interested. But at this time, our presentation ends. So please stand.